one of the big questions out there is what's going to happen in Seattle.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Pete Carroll as we assess whether or not he should be back for yet another year with the team. Here's Carroll from yesterday making what could be a pitch directly to owner Jody Allen to stay the course.
And I'm not for one reason at all. Am I thinking that we have to restart this whole thing and create a new philosophy and a new approach and all that. I don't think that. I think we've got the essence of the things that we need. We got to build on them. We got to support it better, and we got to continue to grow and progress. There's no standing still, but there's the foundation for doing things.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Some Seahawks fans would say it's time to blow it up and start over, but it's not like that's going to be a quick and easy fix either. There is no quick and easy fix to this team, but they have to figure out how many steps backward they're going to take before they start taking steps forward. Will there be a new quarterback in Russell Wilson? And I think the timeline is very simple. They make a decision about the coach. That's the first job, obviously. If there's a new coach, there's a chance that the new coach is a guy that Russell Wilson says, hey, yeah, I'm fine. I will consent to a trade to the Seahawks, and I will stay here with this new coach. So I think the dust has to settle on who the coach is going to be before we even get to the point where we figure out where Russell Wilson's going to be. But that's the question that I think only Jody Allen knows the answer to at this point. Is a major change looming with both Pete Carroll and general manager John Schneider, because they're kind of tied together. I don't think it's one guy stays and one guy goes, Chris. I think if one's gone, both are gone, and they start over with a new GM and a new head coach.
I don't doubt that. I don't. And, listen, I think you got to throw in Russell Wilson in that mix, too. I think this is part of the equation. This is a tough one. It is. I mean, first off, I feel like kind of weird and going like we're even talking about this with Pete Carroll. I mean, he's been dominating football here for the last, 10, 12 years. And they were 12-4 last year. I know it's not been great. Listen, there's a part of me that goes, maybe it's run its course, and maybe it is time for Seattle to have a change and Pete Carroll to have a change. Maybe. There's a part of me that certainly sees the logic in that. When Pete Carroll says there's a base and a foundation of that, I want to kind of go like, to a degree, I'm not sure. What is the base of the foundation? Tell me. I don't really know. It's an offensive line that's still kind of all over the place. There's some good things other than their defense and front seven. There's a few young guys that are good, but not superstars. So there's a lot of things I think are still questionable about, the roster and the team, where I would disagree with kind of what Pete said there. So that's where I kind of go back and forth. But that's where I think the Russell Wilson thing comes into play here, too. I do. From all accounts, it sounds like Seattle is going to have money to spend next year. Like, I think their salary cap is in a pretty good spot for 2022. You then now trade a Russell Wilson and get some assets from that. Maybe you can turn this thing around if you can convince ownership like, hey, I'm not looking at like, oh, this is my last 2 or 3 years. I'm Pete Carroll, and I'm going to be chewing gum and running up and down the sideline for 5 or 6 more years. If he can sell that to ownership and that, again, I'm not against it. I mean, Pete Carroll is still, hey, they dealt with some issues. Russell Wilson missed some games this year that totally threw them out of rhythm. I don't look at the Seahawks and just go, oh, man, it's just dysfunctional. They're not good. They got issues, and they got work to do, but I don't know if I feel like fire Pete Carroll is the right thing to do either.
Maybe I'm getting co-host mixed up because I know there is one guy in particular who will constantly rail on the Seattle offense.
That's where I will go.
Unimaginative it is.
Right.
But at some point, Pete Carroll's responsible for that because he keeps hiring these guys that run the basic meat and potatoes offense that doesn't have the creativity, doesn't get the ball into the hands of the best players, doesn't take advantage of Russell Wilson. The strategy is, and again, I can't remember which co-host this is, who said, keep it close until the fourth quarter when you're down 10 points and you say, hey, Russell, come save our ass today. I think that's the quote.
It is. Listen, that's where I go. That I would file that under, maybe it's time for, him to move on. And, yes, there's some adjustments he's got to make for a next job or whatever. Yeah, it drives me crazy that way. It does. And that's where I'm saying it's a tough decision. Obviously, what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball is influenced by Pete Carroll, period. I mean, that's out the window now. I mean, I don't care how many guys we're going to bring in before we just go, well, it's basically the same offense we had with the other guy. there's nothing that really changed. So obviously he's involved in that and is going to have to change to a degree. That's why I kind of was saying the Russell Wilson thing, I think, is a major part of this here. You know, I for sure, whether I don't know what to do with Pete Carroll. Like I said, he's certainly got enough pelts on his horse to sit here and go, wait, you're going to fire me? What? Like, after all this, and I was 12-4 and won the division just last year? You know, that does seem crazy when you say it at a base level. But, yes, there's questions about the team. The offense hasn't changed, and you got a quarterback that we know is not happy. He could say all he wants, and that's where I just think, yeah, Russell's a part of this equation, and I don't see them coexisting next year. That's for sure.
And that's the thing. If they hold out any hope whatsoever of keeping Russell Wilson,
that's where they got to do what you're saying.
They need a new coach.
Yeah, I got you.
And they need a coach that Russell Wilson wants to play for. Now, does that mean they should let Russell Wilson pick the coach? No, it's a delicate balance to strike. But Jody Allen has to ask herself, what's my priority here?
That's right.
If this town isn't big enough for both Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson at this point, and I got to pick one or the other, who am I picking? And there's a chance if she preliminarily picks Russell Wilson, she still ends up with neither. And neither is clearly a better option right now than both. And it may be a better option than keep Pete and let Russ cook elsewhere. So, you know, when you look at the flow chart, when you look at how this can all play out, the ideal option is, I believe, potentially, hire a coach that makes Russ want to stay. Option 2, new coach. Russ wants to leave anyway, but we move forward with a new beginning. And then the worst-case scenario would be have neither, or keep Pete and not Russ. I guess that would be worse than having a new coach, potentially, if she really wants major change. So I don't know what's going to happen. And, hey, we say this all the time with Mike Tomlin, Super Bowl winning coach. If he gets fired, he's going to land somewhere else right away. Going to be fascinating to see what happens if Pete Carroll becomes available with some of these other teams that are out there. And there's a team in Minnesota that once upon a time, a guy named Bud Grant was lobbying for Pete Carroll to be the head coach of that team. And you look over now, not that because coaches, the teams when they hire new coaches look for the exact opposite of what they have. I think there's too much similarity between Pete Carroll and Mike Zimmer for him to be the answer there. But you look at some of these other teams, Pete Carroll could become very attractive for a short-term 5-year thing. He's very spry. He seems like he's ready to coach into his 80s. Maybe it's a 10-year thing.
Yeah.
But I'll be very interested to see one of these other teams, if he's available, do they make a play for Pete Carroll?
I would think so. Again, I mean, you look at first off his resume. I mean, in 2010 and 2011, 7-9 and 7-9. Then it's 11-5, 13-3, 12-4, 10-6, 10-5. 10-5-1, excuse me. 9-7, 10-6, 11-5, 12-4, and then 5-10 this year, which I know is not good. But damn, that's where I say it is a tough one, and the ownership's going to have to figure out what route they want to go. Because you certainly could justify, like, hey, Pete's done great here. It's a little frustrating with the offense, yes, but he's done great. And we're going to stay the course with him because we think he can kind of rebuild and get this team back and give us another 5-year push. Or do they just say, hey, Pete, it's been great. We're sick of this style of play. We want to make it all about Russ and be more of a high-flying, high-wire act on that side of the ball. That's what they're going to have to figure out because I think it's one or the other. And like to your point or your question with Pete Carroll, too, like when I think about Pete Carroll and like places that make sense, like to me, Jacksonville makes that Pete Carroll would be the perfect guy to finally go down there and get that organization on the right track, except for one thing.
Yeah.
We're not sure you want him to develop your young quarterback and do the same,
exactly.
Right? That's the problem, right? That's the first thing you thought of. Everything else you'd go, wait, that guy makes sense. He'll kind of get that organization back in the right place and teach the cons and everything to go like, hey, this is how you run an organization. But the young quarterback thing is like, hey, young quarterback with Pete Carroll, run the ball between the tackles and play the defense. That's not good. And that's where, that would be a tough situation.
One that came to mind for me where maybe they just throw him and Schneider the keys. If Schneider goes too and they take their show to a new city, how about Chicago?
Chicago was the next team I was going to bring up there. I just was rambling. That's another one I'd look at.
You got a young quarterback there too.
Right.
But but maybe more conducive to the offense that Pete would want to run.
Yeah.
And you could draw some parallels back to the early Seahawks years under Pete Carroll. Yeah, and we know how they love their defense in Chicago.
Yes.
Man.
That's another one. It definitely fits that mold of what you're saying, Jacksonville there. You're exactly right. Like, hey, we can get a guy here that, it might not be for 10 years. It might be 5 or 6 or whatever, but he can get us kind of going on the right track here again and get the organization all on the same page. I hear you there. There's no doubt. Or maybe he could sell to ownership like, hey, I'm going to change my offensive view here. I don't know if he really will do that. That's the million-dollar question, but I think it's a good thought, Mike. My head definitely went there too.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.